Hello, community of Roastbrief. We are here with Graham Land, Chief Creative Officer of VML Canada, jury of Outdoor Lions. Hi, Graham.
Hi, nice to meet you. Great to be here.
We'd like to start asking, as a jury member of the Outdoor Lions at Cannes, what specific elements do you believe define a truly standout outdoor campaign in today's creativity landscape?
Yeah, good question. I think the most important thing about out-of-home advertising is we've got to understand that advertising in the out-of-home space, it lives in the real world. So these are ads that live in the real world. They're sometimes can be up for weeks, for months, and that forces us to really think about what kind of contribution is it making to that environment? What impact is it having on the world? Is it relevant? Is it helpful? Is it funny? Is it informative? Does it create celebration? Or is it just more clutter? Is it just more noise in my life? And so I think that Great Outdoor is really about how it connects and interacts with the real world and with the environment that it's in. And ultimately, what is the impact that it has on the world and most importantly, to the humans that see it and interact with it. And so I think that the most important thing about out of home and outdoor is like, what is its role? And is it just adding to noise and clutter in an already chaotic world, in an already busy world? Or is it doing something that moves me or makes me smile or just connects with me in an interesting way? And that's my sort of like guiding principle on what I think great outdoor is. It can be so many different things nowadays, but really like, how is it living in the real world and what is it doing to the world and the people that surround it?
Yeah, for sure, this extra value. And now, outdoor is a category that's been evolving quickly with all of these new digital advances, these interactive experiences. And
Yeah.
so in your view, what role does technology play in enhancing or in challenging the impact of outdoor
Mhm.
creativity?
Well, we've seen, as technologies increased and innovation has become more a part of our daily lives, we've seen how this has become, incredibly embedded into out of home and outdoor. I think that what is really interesting about out of home right now is like how it can relate to um, time of day, weather, transit times, how digital technology and digital data plays a role with inside out-of-home advertising. And so there's much more of a responsive, much more of a real-time aspect that we've seen in a lot of campaigns. I guess the best example that I can think of that really kind of like was an aha moment for all of us was that amazing British Airways billboard where they had a little kid interacting with flight paths that were flying over the billboard. That really kind of was a sort of a big brand making a big play and using tech and data and real-time information in a really playful way. Um, and then we've also seen work that engages and responds to the environment and actually allows humans to engage with out of home and unlock cool experiences. So, out of home isn't just a static medium. As technology increases and engages, we're finding really innovative ways to play around with it and engage with it and let it be, in a lot of cases, actually out of home kind of becomes a utility. It can tell us when, certain weather is coming in. It can update us on train times. It can talk about flight paths. And so I think that we've seen technology become more of a kind of a central theme within out of home. But at the end of the day, the technology is a tool. The technology is just something that we use to kind of like bring out a human insight or bring out a really beautiful idea. Technology can never be the idea itself. It's always going to be about what's the context, why is this use of technology interesting or relevant, and ultimately, what is the experience for the end user?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
And talking about the submissions this year, have you noticed any emerging themes, story techniques, or maybe some cultural insight that's relevant or that it's standing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that that I would say, obviously, can't talk about specific pieces of work, or maybe I can, but like it's really interesting to see because you're judging so much work from all over the world, and I guess in more defined markets, like I'm in North America, the advertising landscape is very it's very kind of well organized, and therefore there aren't that many surprises. There aren't that many kind of like innovations in terms of like new media. And what I love seeing from other parts of the world in what you might call some emerging markets or less traditional markets is just how innovative and how experimental and how smart some of the media solutions are. Like people creating ad space, advertising space, out of home advertising space, out of things that you would never think could be advertising space. Like to me, that's where that's the real benefit and like the real beauty about being on some of these juries is that you really kind of get to kind of break out of your day to day and break out of the confines of how you experience a specific category. And you see how different markets, different global markets kind of like interpret what is out of home advertising. And so one of, I guess, the big themes is just like really seeing how the meaning of out of home is so different across continents, across hemispheres, across different countries. And I'm really enjoying seeing some of the cultural, social behavior campaigns. So yeah, don't want to get into too much of like what I'm seeing because obviously that's under embargo, but there's some really cool, innovative ideas that use less traditional means and where maybe technology doesn't even necessarily play a role. It's just using the natural environment to create advertising space in spaces that you would never think to be a message.
Well, that's really interesting. We're looking forward to looking at. And in terms of on the judging of these pieces, how do you personally approach this process? Do you keep something in mind when evaluating the work of these pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I think when evaluating the work, I think that you kind of use a kind of a system 1 and 2 kind of methodology. Whereas first of all, you just have to feel it. Like if you see something, you just go, "Oh man, that is cool. That is smart. Oh, I love it." Something about the visual impact, or just something about the way in which they used a bit of technology, or just like wow, that's just so beautiful. It's like so great to look at because out of home is such a visual medium as well, right? So like I think you've got to go with your heart first. And then I think you kind of start to process, okay, what's the brand? Is it relevant? Did it really happen? Is it a real thing? And then you just start to kind of like find the holes. You start to find like ways to kind of like really torture test whether or not your instinct was justified, And so that's kind of the way I kind of like judge. I judge it in a very sort of like open way, in a very curious way, almost like a bit of a childlike way. And then the rational brain kicks in and you start to kind of really think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. It makes a lot of sense because outdoor is really all about the senses. So
It's
yeah,
about the senses. And I think it's about kind of visual impact and like, do I get it in 3 seconds? Does it talk to me in 3 seconds? Right. And I think that's the way consumers and like the public also react to out of home. They're not out there looking for your ad. They're not out there wanting to be sold. And so it's like, I think it's just about what that first impression does and how it feels to you.
yeah. And as Chief Creative Officer of VML Canada, and how do you encourage your teams to think differently when approaching, well, specifically outdoor advertising now, but in general? Can you share us?
Yeah, I think there's no real. I mean, it's. I mean, I'm in sort of two kind of camps. I do feel like out of home still has the ability to be incredibly simple. If I think about a campaign that I always reference is the Economist campaign from AMV, which is an old campaign, like a really old campaign, but it just uses a red background and a very very iconic typeface and great copywriting, great headline writing. Um, and I think that's an amazing example of how you can build a brand and how you can build relevance through out of home in a really efficient way without using any technology, without any of the new kind of like ways in which we can communicate and engage. So like I always ask my teams to be reductive and be simple and be smart and intelligent and insightful with out of home. But then there's obviously kind of modern ways of like approaching things. I think out of home can be anything. Out of home could be a building wrap. Out of home could be a poster that you can touch and you can engage with. So I do think that there's no real way to approach out of home, but I do think that I am a big fan and I have a big love affair with just really simple out of home that you don't need to do anything to apart from just look at, and in 3 seconds you can create affinity with the brand. To me, that is like one of the most powerful things like we can do as visual communicators, as visual storytellers, is use out of home to tell a story and create impact in an incredibly short space of time. I still love that kind of work, and I still love seeing that kind of work in the wild. And when I do, I celebrate it um, because it's just about simplicity. And I think we as humans live in such a chaotic, busy, crazy world that when we receive simplicity, whether it be from an out-of-home poster or a user experience or a great product, there's something about there's a relief that your brain gives you when something is easy and simple, and there's a little bit of humanity or a little bit of joy inside of that. So, yeah, when talking to teams, I'm like, try and be as reductive as possible, or let's try and be as innovative as possible and try to create an interesting experience for the consumer.
Yeah. However, the media keeping the essence of the story you're telling. For sure. And finally, Graham, can you share a recent example where these whole approaches let stand out work?
Yeah, I think talking about simplicity, we ran a campaign for Coca-Cola in Canada. It's called Magic Duos. And the idea behind it is all about creating a connection between great food and Coca-Cola, eating amazing food and Coca-Cola, and telling the story that great food goes perfectly with Coca-Cola. And so we created these very simple posters that ran on large format out of home, like really big sort of billboards. And it just used a portion of the logo, of the Coca-Cola logo, and used like an amazing food pairing, like fish taco, but the CEO of taco was a part of the Coca-Cola logo, or just the big word lasagna on a billboard, and the LA of lasagna was in the Coca-Cola font, in the Coca-Cola logo script. And so those are just like really simple explanations of like what I love about out of home advertising and the ability to be extremely simple, and to communicate a brand promise, which is like, yeah, if you're going to be eating, if you're going to be having a lunch, your lunchtime, nothing goes better with your fish taco or lasagna than a Coca-Cola. So that's like one cool example that I'm really proud of that we did. Another great example was for an LGBTQIS group in Canada. It's called EGAL Canada, and they do a lot of great work to help support and advocate for that community. And we did really interesting posters using bus shelters and transit media. And they were actually long copy ads. So we used long copy in a out-of-home setting.
Wow.
And the reason why we did that is to create storytelling. And what was really interesting about this campaign is that we used 3 amazing influencers from that community and told a story about them that one way, if you read it, you would just see them as a trans individual. Another way that you would read it, you would find a deeper story behind that individual. And I think that out of home, as much as it has the opportunity to kind of create visual impact, there are opportunities to do deeper, there's opportunities to use deeper storytelling as well. And so we use bus shelters and transit media because that's when generally people are waiting for a bus or waiting for the subway. They've got nothing to do. Sometimes they don't have Wi-Fi. And like we created a really interesting story. So like, those are kind of 2 disparate, 2 very different examples of like what I love about out of home, and 2 campaigns that I'm super proud of, just off the top of my head. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yep. Thank you, Graham, for sharing those stories with us, and thank you for sharing us your experience. We're looking forward to see the pieces of outdoor. That's always an interesting category, and congratulations of being a jury. Yeah.
Thank you, and it's been great chatting to you. And thanks for thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to getting out there, getting to kind of meet my jury and kind of go through all the work. Should be a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, we're really excited as well, and we wish you the best luck. Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Huh?
Bye, Graham. Thank you.
Okay.
For
Bye.
Bye.